Welcome back to another episode of the Process and Automation podcast with the Automation guys. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. We hope you had a good start into the new year. And so was the year just started? I think it's always nice to look a bit ahead, what might be coming up over the next months, next 12 months or so. And and of course, with me here, as always, is Arno. Hello, Arno. How are you?
I'm well, Sasha. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, nice. First episode in 2024. And just looking back into 2023, it has been a busy year in intelligent automation. Was no doubt. Low code, no code, AI, in particularly generative AI. So yeah, very, very busy last year. But today we will be looking into the future a bit, as I mentioned. And we have selected a couple of questions from the community on the topic RPA. For everyone who is not so familiar, RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. So in this episode, we will cover, we will talk about the future of RPA. And with that, Arno, do you like to grab the first question we have?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for our listeners for all their support in 2023. We very much look forward to a lot more exciting podcasts in 2024. Of course, like Sasha mentioned, talking about all the progressive technologies. I think AI is probably going to be becoming more mainstream. So I guess the first question with that sort of context is looking at the future scope of RPA, and what's the place of RPA in the sort of 2024 and beyond years. And as me and Sasha is talking a lot on this podcast about RPA, we all know that it exists in a lot of organizations out there, and it's obviously a capability that helps you automate repetitive human-centric tasks, and we feel that its potential to automate these tasks is really just the starting point of RPA. I think that whole simulating a human, doing what a human does based on observing human behavior and then effectively copying that behavior into a bot is really just the starting point. And I think that's the sort of the lowest level of the value it provides. I think that we're going to see a lot more organizations take the leap with automation and exploring more possibilities across their business and where to apply RPA specifically. There's obviously still a lot of companies out there that we talk to that know about RPA, but they haven't started their first RPA initiative yet. And I think as we start this new year, a top priority for these organizations will be to look at these RPA specifically that I'm talking about now, but also to kind of look at automation probably in more general terms and get started with that in order to minimize their costs, for example, boosting their customer services and really finding new ways to offer more secure services around the services they provide, easier governance and compliance, and all of that sort of. If we look at the environment as well, and I think there's a big drive towards being carbon zero. So I think that this technology really lends itself pretty well in that sort of roadmap still. It is quite mainstream. It has been around for a while, and I think for some of the late adopters, RPA is going to be something that's definitely on their radar still. Regardless if they start with the I would say the baseline RPA sequences where it is just mimicking human behavior and mimicking what humans does, not necessarily any intelligence in it. And then, sort of one step up from that, um, we can't just look at RPA as just that. I think Sashi mentioned generative AI, and I think that that will become the next sort of, I guess, adoption strategy or adoption catalyst, where obviously there's a lot of advances being made in AI. It's becoming a bit more accessible. People understand the use cases better, and I think that combined with RPA will really sort of help unlock even better efficiency and better productivity, for these customers of ours that's perhaps just looking at RPA or have got sort of initial RPA initiatives that's deployed, and they have got some automations, and they're looking for something that would actually make that, I guess, a bit more intelligent. Looking for that, next level of savings that bringing in AI can provide. So I think RPA is still very much on people's minds. I think if you look at RPA vendors, they're investing a lot in their
Mm.
technologies, software. I think we see a lot of peripheral things, value-added things arriving as well. And I think as the organizations out there understand more about the capabilities, I think it's still going to be a sort of a core element of the intelligent automation space in 2024.
Yeah. So yeah, that brings me to the question we have received from the community. Is RPA still relevant in 2024? Yeah, based on what you just said, Arno. Yeah, the short answer clearly is yes. I know over the last couple of years, with other technologies and other platforms emerging, RPA was sort of thought to be sort of nearly like a dead horse going forward. So it was predicted that it will not be that particularly important anymore, but it still shows it is a very useful automation tool, and because the vendors out there are also broadening their capabilities, isn't it? So they're moving away from a pure play RPA to do more. So AI is one thing you just mentioned, but they're adding other capabilities in there. Some are adding workflow automation capabilities and case management capabilities around their RPA. Some other workflow automation, case automation vendors, they're adding RPA into it. So to become a big platform to cover the whole end to end in all different ways. And yeah, lots of enterprises are taking RPA to the next level, and of course by using it, always finding new ways to achieve total digital transformation. There's so many use cases out there. We talk a lot about where you can apply RPA to, what you can do with it, particularly in specific departments. And there's so much more to do, I guess, in companies. I think the companies who are thinking RPA was not useful, they failed with their with the approach. I think that's the problem, unfortunately, in lots of companies. Sometimes you concentrate on a very, very difficult and huge use case, so to get the sort of really good return of investment. And some companies they're not looking at it like, okay, it's a cycle. Let's start with something and then grow with it, and have that excitement across the organization grown over time. So not every organization is doing it, and there we often see people saying, okay, RPA is a failure, it's not useful, and I am 100% still can say no, I don't believe you. And I think if you do it right, you will find hundreds of use cases in larger organizations which benefit from RPA, especially now combining RPA with all the new automation tools available. But yeah, so as we mentioned, RPA is so well suited for handling a lot of these repetitive tasks, and there are clearly hundreds and thousands of these repetitive tasks out there in organizations. Um, yeah, um, I think the key is to make it more accessible to the so-called citizen developers, to the business people, and let them use it and let them see it and let them experience the amazing results. So business will get a lot more out of it, and yeah, and that's what we are seeing in the future automation anyway as a trend. So if it's workflow automation, process automation, business process automation, all sorts of different terms are flying around. But I think the key is that citizen developers and business, they need to just get their hands on it and see the results first small and then grow with it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There's nothing I can add to that. And I think the next question here was, is it here to stay or will it become obsolete? Which is again sort of, it links up with the relevancy. And, from what we see that RPA platforms out there are becoming broader. Companies like UiPath, Blue Prism, they are adding other offerings as well, including
Mm,
sort of capabilities around business process automation. So I think it is sort of merging into that space where we know that standalone RPA itself perhaps doesn't unlock all of the benefits, but if you combine it with process automation, for example, workflow automation, intelligent document processing. You throw AI in the mix there for
mm,
intelligent decision making. That in itself is for us a very good sign that RPA is here to stay. There will be multiple new layers that's going to be stacked on top of it, and it certainly won't become obsolete because I think, like I mentioned earlier, it will be a core technology where if there is a mundane task that you want to automate, you want to take the human away from that, that's the kind of first baseline of it might be a very small initiative where you want to remove a shared inbox where you receive, let's say, help desk tickets or complaints, and a bot can easily read those emails and effectively at a very, very simplistic way, go write an entry into a spreadsheet. And, people can, not that I say this is the best way of doing it, but, they can actually work on a, let's say, a Excel Online spreadsheet and have some sort of collaboration. The business process management side of that is where you then create perhaps an application where those tickets are logged and you have a dashboard.
mm,
If there's any intelligent document processing, we talk a lot about that. Let's say this same inbox has got a loan application or application for a new account, and there's some contracts or some terms and conditions that needs to be generated and signed. Those are all kind of bolt-ons that I would say it's going to become a sort of a broader platform. And again, a lot of these tools that we see is becoming a lot more no code in terms of the tooling.
mm,
So it's effectively, if you're a person that understands your process, especially if you understand your existing process and you understand where you want to be, you can pick up a tool and sort of run with your first automation pretty quickly. I think that it is a case of the more you use it, the more you see the benefits, perhaps the more you'll invest in a wider team. You might in the future then decide to have more of a technical team, because that will obviously unlock additional benefits that you can extract from the platform that
mm,
perhaps a novice citizen developer can't do. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
So it kind of goes, it's not just about broadness, you can go deep as well. So I think that, you can choose the right balance for your business. Is this something that you want to kind of to create governance around, where you want people to purely be sort of citizens, developers, create their own automations, have a virtual assistant that makes their life easy for their sort of day-to-day tasks and jobs they perform? Or do you want to go more kind of IT led, where you actually have a sort of dimension in your project team, or your sort of automation team, that can actually exploit some of the I would say more advanced features to just unlock a bit more of the benefits that RPA combined with these other technologies that I'm talking about can provide for you as a
Mm. Yeah, I think you mentioned that a bit earlier. Intelligent document processing, I think was that um, being available for more low code and no code non-technical business users. I think that will make it so much easier to have a broader use nowadays. Um, these platforms come with was a good set of pre-configurations, something we didn't see in the market a couple of years ago. It was still quite complex to get good document classification and
yeah
extraction. So nowadays, with a few configurations, you can be up and running and achieve so much more in end-to-end processing by by understanding invoices straight away because of the AI power we have these days. So you can just have a document and get, for example, OpenAI,
yeah
look at it. It will be nearly spot on all the time. So that all that was not available a couple of years ago. So this power is now in the hands of non-technical business people, and so absolutely RPA
yeah
combined with all these things, IDP, AI automations, which do not. Ultimately, it will not require that human in the loop anymore. So RPA will not be obsolete because of the combined power.
yeah no again, I totally agree with all of that, and I think that with the sort of adoption of OpenAI um, increasing and becoming bigger and bigger, people will realize that you can actually spin up your own GPTs and your own models, and
Mm,
all of that is all no code. So you can start training these models and plugging them into RPA. This stuff is not magic. It's not something that only experts in that field can do it.
mm,
It's I mean, this goes as far as if you look at GPTs, for example, it's self-descriptive. You can actually ask it, "How do I use you?" and it will tell you.
mm. Yeah, the programming language
Yeah.
going forward is English. That's that's what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
exactly. So,
Mm,
and I think that conversational element of it is really, really interesting, especially for citizen developers, or people that want to be citizen developers, that want to exploit or want to play around with these technologies, and potentially doesn't know where to start. Um, that's just such a broad area of information that's available to you, in order to understand perhaps how to integrate AI with RPA. Um, Perhaps what are the kind of use cases that you need to look at if you combine those two technologies.
mm,
So I think that in itself will strengthen RPA, and again, we can see that in the market, the RPA market. Um, you know,
mm,
the RPA implementations out there are big. We talk a lot about starting small, but we see fairly big adoption. Um, where there's sometimes tens or hundreds of robots,
mm,
in companies doing automations, and this is becoming such a key element of their business, because it is a workforce, right? Where this workforce is doing tasks at a cost that is a lot cheaper than a human. And I think that this this sort of higher productivity that it drives is actually also driving the market to get bigger. And they predict by sort of early 2025, 70% of all enterprises in industries will have engaged in a sort of digital business model, a transformation model, some sort of transformation program, to implement sort of automation. So and that's quite a broad sort of market if you think about that.
Yeah, was that, of course, I think it's about time to look into the actual trends in RPA. So that was a question from the community. What are then the trends in RPA for the next year? And yeah, when we look into that, number one big trend, of course, will be generative AI plus intelligent automation. Yeah, I think with so much more investment going into these areas by every business this year, yeah, I think everyone will be focusing on that one and see what kind of results they can achieve. And yeah, we will be covering lots of more use cases this year, especially around generative AI and intelligent automation. So yeah, everyone can benefit from what's actually going on throughout the year. Yeah, next one. Digital worker first processes. Yeah, that obviously makes sense with the power of more AI in our RPA implementations. We can now assume that a digital worker can do these processes end to end, and yeah, we will focus on that a bit more. Evolving from pure play to platform play. We already see that in the market. All these vendors in the BPM, low code, and RPA area, yeah, they have already diversified and they broadened their platforms, enhanced their platforms. So that will continue to happen. And instead of just connecting into maybe an open AI or other AIs, more sort of out of the box capabilities will come in as well. So and then yeah, we know there are lots of different specialities and sector focuses of some RPA vendors. So we probably see that pure capability in these, or well, enhancing these platforms was capability specifically maybe for the financial sector or maybe for the services sector and health sector. So we probably see a few more of those positionings happening as well. Yeah, and of course, RPA is not just experimental anymore. So over the years, it has grown and is stronger. So there will be more strategic application within organizations. And yeah, so very exciting to hear about all these case studies and successes. Yeah, so we will monitor that space and we'll share success stories as well. Yeah, better user accessibility for citizen developers. We touched on that earlier. These platforms, they will come with built-in capabilities so that non-technical business users can get things going from IDP to Gen AI usage. Yeah, everything will be very easy to do. Of course, Arno, you mentioned that these platforms are good for non-technical users to start with, but then if you bring a really technical person in, maybe a couple of coders, you can use that platform to the maximum.
Yeah,
and of course, ethical automation and ESG compliance, that will be an ongoing topic going forward, and the RPA platforms will provide everything um, to support that. And of course, yeah, so data privacy, security, and governance is more important than ever. I think that question comes up a lot was the AI. I think yeah, going forward in the next couple of months, we will see more focus on that. How does um, an RPA implementation together with Gen AI can still adhere to very strict security requirements. So yeah, that will definitely be a focus. Yeah, and I think that will be the trends in RPA.
Yeah, and I think just touching on, what is the future of RPA solutions, and I think that there's a lot of surface scratching still happening in process automation. I think RPA will continue to evolve, and into this offering that includes AI, meaningful AI as well, practical AI, things we can actually see and understand. Um, not complicated, bespoke models. I think more AI that is based on the OpenAI principles, that's easily consumed. And we're still going to see solutions where we are going to automate repetitive rule-based tasks, but also, we're going to see the automation of more complicated tasks, that perhaps requires more intelligence.
Mm,
And I think that the RPA and the process automation worlds will come closer and closer together, where a RPA bot is perhaps just going to be another stakeholder in a sort of a workflow
hmm
that does a job. And then perhaps as businesses actually, look at their processes and optimize it, perhaps more of the manual task within inside that workflow will be replaced by RPA, especially even tasks which you deem to be complicated, where human judgment is required,
mm,
where you could perhaps have some intelligence around there to say, well, if this invoice has got a purchase order, it does match the purchase order amount, it is below a certain threshold, it's
mm,
cheaper for us to pay that invoice than to actually send it to finance for checking, because
mm,
that's a objective decision that we make based on the AI. And again, that just kind of drives the costs down,
mm,
or down. I think the other thing that, if we look at sort of RPA solutions, and it's sort of been the elephant in the room over the last couple of years, is things around security and compliancy. If RPA bot actually signs off a contract or agrees to a contract, or
mm,
creates a transaction, who's liable? Is it actually the human or is it the bot? So I
mm,
think all of that's becoming a bit more clear now for people. And I think the sort of whole governance frameworks around RPA is starting to mature a lot. Security is been a big focus point for vendors. Security has been a big discussion point as well. Where the responsibility lies, governance around that. And I think it's becoming a bit more, from a acceptance perspective and adoption perspective, especially around, I guess, business leaders, people that's interested in compliance. It's becoming easier to actually answer those questions. And I think, if you look at financial services or healthcare, I think more and more of them will actually start to adopt a digital workforce, especially in healthcare, where perhaps a few years ago you wouldn't, um, you know, quote unquote, trust the robot to make a decision. But I think if it's powered by a sort of objective intelligence based on, machine learning, that
yeah.
will become a lot more accessible. And as you look into the future as well, all of these technologies will be, with inside reach of business users. I
hmm
think that the user accessibility and the intuitive designers for these tools, especially around process design, RPA process design, is becoming better. It's becoming more accessible. It's easier. There's a lot more templates. There's a lot more, I suppose, starter solutions and starter packs and frameworks and
Mm-hmm.
by industry that people can use as an accelerator. And then, just again, combining that with low and no code development tools, I think, that will just sort of broaden the adoption by various people as well, that this is of interest, and, not just business leaders that's interested in productivity and profitability, but I think also heads of departments, individual users that really just want to have a work balance with these types of activities that they do, that's convenient and that's acceptable, and not having to do work where it's mundane, it's boring, and it doesn't really add any value.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think the whole democratization of RPA is becoming, more and more. And we could see that, and I think that for the future, I think we'll see that more in the solutions as well, more of the solutions that people create, and it's very exciting. It's absolutely exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always a lot was these new technologies, or was expanding these technologies. It's still a lot like chicken and egg. So the more people, business owners can see the results coming out of it, the more, and then suddenly the more they want it. So was open AI and tapping into your company knowledge, because that's what the next level will be for lots of businesses, because they will not pump all the information into the common generic model which is out there publicly. So they will use that all with their data and knowledge, and that will be very exciting to see how good um, the AI will then be involved in that overall workflow. So very exciting to see, and I think this year will be really the first time bigger companies are really jumping on it, because last year was like, oh, great, amazed, and then if you use key cases, proof of concepts. But now I think this year will be a lot of um, actually start using these technologies much wider.
Yeah.
So yeah, very exciting indeed. Yeah, with that, we come to an end of our episode, and yeah, 2024 and beyond will be clearly very exciting for all things process and automation, and any business of any size can make use of these automation technologies. We we have, oh, it's a huge, when you look low code and no code platforms, we know obviously a lot of enterprise platforms, but there's so many out there. So depending on whatever business size you are, you will find a solution and a platform which sort of fits your company size, your budget, etc. So yeah, if you haven't looked at automation so far, now is 100% the right time to start. And yeah, and if you're already doing it and need a few new perspectives, yeah, join us here on the next episodes, or and visit us at the automationguys.net, and yeah, join our community there. So lots of like-minded people are exchanging ideas and brainstorm and yeah, experiment with automation. Yeah, and of course, feel free to get in touch with Arno and myself via the social channels, or on theautomationguys.net within the community. Yeah, and thanks a lot for tuning in today. We will be back with another episode very soon, and until then, let's automate it.